Okay, we'll get started now. Call this meeting to order, Board of Franklin County Commissioners, Wednesday, November 9th, 2022. It's 8:41 and roll call.
Commissioner Sotomayor,
Present.
Commissioner Harris,
Present.
Chair Dunn,
Present.
Vice Chair Dickinson,
Present.
Commissioner Waymire.
You join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and stay standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, we are thankful for this day that you've granted to us. We are thankful for some moisture this last week that continues to persist. We are thankful for the cooler weather that you are offering to us, and we praise you for that. We ask today, as this business is conducted here by this body, that, Lord, you would reign in your sovereignty over this place. May you guide these who are making decisions with wisdom, and those who would interact with peace and gentle kindness. We thank you for this country we live in and the freedoms we enjoy, and pray that your hand would be upon all the decisions made to the glory and honor of your name. We ask these things in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Derek, correspondence. I want to do this proclamation.
Yeah, you bet. You want to read it, Roy?
I think Diane should read it because she suggested it.
Yeah, you bet.
I think it's a good idea.
Usually proclamations are brought to us by organizations, and this one we actually brought ourselves. This is something that is being done across the country to honor our veterans. So our proclamation 2206 reads, whereas the residents of Franklin County have great respect, admiration, and the utmost gratitude for all of the men and women who have selflessly served our country and this community in the armed forces. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedoms and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas Franklin County seeks to honor these individuals who have paid the high price for freedom by placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas veterans continue to serve our community in the American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, religious groups, civil service, and by functioning as county veteran service officers in 29 states to help fellow former service members access more than $52 billion in federal health, disability, and compensation benefits each year. And whereas approximately 200,000 service members transition to civilian communities annually, and whereas an estimated 20% increase of service members will transition to civilian life in the near future, and whereas studies indicate that 44 to 72% of service members experience high levels of stress during their first year after during transition from military to civilian life, and whereas active military service members transitioning from military service are at a high risk for suicide during their first year after military service, and whereas the National Association of Counties encourages all counties, parishes, and boroughs to recognize Operation Green Light for veterans, and whereas Franklin County appreciates the sacrifices of our United States military personnel and believes specific recognition shall be granted, therefore, be it proclaimed with designation as a green light for Veterans County, Franklin County Board of Commissioners hereby declares from October through Veterans Day, November 11th, 2022, as a time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women in uniform transitioning from active service. Therefore, be it further proclaimed that in observance of Operation Greenlight, Franklin County encourages its citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the importance of honoring all those who made immemorable sacrifices to preserve freedom by displaying a green light in a window of their place of business or residence. Signed this 9th day of November, 2022.
This is a proclamation 22-06. I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
Motion approved.
Second.
Commissioner Sotomayor,
Yes.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes,
We were trying to figure out a way to make the whole courthouse green, and I don't think we quite did that, but maybe in the future we'll work on that.
My understanding in talking with Brandon is that, so the lights that actually light up the side of the courthouse, there's not bulbs that you can replace. You have to replace the entire fixture, and that would have been you bring an electrician in for that. We understand that would have been a process. So we've tried to change the lights on the trees, and maybe if there are other bulbs we can change to turn green, we will. But yeah, if we can do more in the future, absolutely, we'll look at doing that. Great cause here, so.
thank you. Derek, do you have anything else this morning?
No, sir.
Okay, public comment. The citizen desiring to speak on an item not on the agenda may do so at this time. Discussion is limited to 5 minutes, and the commission will not take action or discuss items at this time. Discussion should be limited to matters of county commission business, and public comment is not permitted in regard to personnel matters or on pending legal matters. Items introduced under public comment may become agenda items at a later date.
James Wallace.
James Wallace, 2447 Nebraska Road. Not sure last night if we lost our First Amendment, but I never thought I'd see this happen in Franklin County. Especially right after election night and before Veterans Day. This is shameful. I'd like to revisit the hospital situation. I'd like to know who made the decision for RMH to become Advent Health, and if it was voted on by the taxpayers or somebody just decided that was the thing to do. I'd like to know if the RMH board thought it would be a good idea to enter in the contract with Advent Health, who in 2015 was fined $115 million to settle allegations that Advent Health violated federal laws by maintaining improper salary agreements with physicians. Did the RMH Board of Directors or Franklin County know this in 2019 when they okayed Advent Health? I'd also like to see an investigation, and I think there needs to be a serious discussion about replacing all members of the RMH Board. And I'd like to know why they want to force out the local doctors, since they're local citizens also. It seems ridiculous. That's all I have.
Okay.
Norman Woogie.
Norman Woogie, 3790 Pawnee Road, Ottawa, Kansas. I wrote this last night, so everything's changed. I think that you guys are abusing your power, period. As I wrote this last night, it said, it's nice to have 5 commissioners. That's what the people voted for. Now we're taking a couple weeks off every time. I am here as a citizen to exercise my First Amendment right. That is for us to speak. I've gone to other commission meetings in different counties. I don't sign up. I just come in to listen and gather information. And when the meeting's about to close, they ask me if I have something to say. This is America, and abusive power is getting on a rampage. It's our constitutional right to speak. Period. It's the First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America. Can't believe this is happening. Not in America. And it upsets me. You can take what I say as good advice or as criticism, depending on your frame of mind. As I voted in the courthouse, I could see older people there when I was there, and the access to the courthouse leaves a little bit to desired. What I'd like to see, and it can be done, I'm sure, is an elevator put in on the front of the courthouse, just a short one, up, down one, and up two, without ruining the character and the looks of the courthouse. If, in my mind, I can see what needs to be done, I would like to see and hear from you commissioners of what you plan for the week. When I get up, I plan each day, I plan each week what I'm going to get done. And I run a couple little businesses. I can't imagine you guys needing an administrator. It seems like he gets you in more trouble than he gets you out of. I would like to see at least a forum of commissioners going over the vouchers. I'm sure you guys aren't too busy for that right now. Well, back then, the one commissioner would be their chairman and the clerk. And you guys need to look at this. And I'd like to see the vouchers here where they can be discussed maybe, and we have openness in it. It's getting where this isn't the way that America is supposed to be. That's probably the main thing that I wanted to bring up. I have more, but I'm a little upset with this body, and I know where to go. I've been there before, and we'll see what happens after the midterms. Thank you.
Okay. Is that it, Janet? No more public comment?
That's it.
Okay. Consent agenda, all we have on the consent agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 2nd meeting. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes?
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yeah.
Chair Dunn.
I'll abstain from the minutes. Okay, items of business. Kenny, come on up. We got a lot of zoning things going on.
Good morning. We'll hopefully try to run through these quickly. Definitely let me know if you guys have any questions on any of these. This first request is a request to rezone 14.34 acres from the RE Residential Estate District to the A1 Agriculture District. Just a brief overview of this property. It's currently made up of multiple different tracts. The larger of the tracts actually is a landlocked parcel where the current owner is working on building his dwelling at. What the rezoning will end up doing is the smaller tracts that are in front will get rezoned to the A1 district, and then all of the parcels will be merged together so that it'll be one tract. Currently, we don't generally allow for a residential house to be built on a property that doesn't have frontage onto a county road. And so that, this will allow that parcel to be brought into closer to compliance with our regulations. Due to the size of the property, it won't comply with with the depth ratio that we typically have, but from a staff perspective, we would consider this as being somewhat of an improvement over the current situation as it does allow a parcel to be considered connected to the county road now. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions if you have it.
Any questions about this? Positive motion would be, I make a motion to approve rezoning application number 2208-1986.
So move.
Rear zone approximately 14.34 acres from an RE residential district to an A1 agriculture district, amend the official county zoning map accordingly. You got a motion to approve?
So move. Second.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay, Kenny, we'll keep going.
Okay. The second request is a proposal to rezone approximately 52.03 acres from the A1 Agriculture District to the A2 Transitional Agriculture District. The current property owner is desiring to rezone in order to split this property into two separate tracts. He will still retain the portion of the property with the house, and I believe has a person interested in buying the remainder of that tract from him. One item that I would note on this one, I believe like 75% of this property is actually shown as being not prime farmland, and most of the area that's actually shown as being prime farmland is right where the house and the accessory structures are built. So from an agricultural perspective, there's probably not a whole lot of benefit of keeping it there. It will still be zoned in the A2 Transitional Agriculture District, so it'll still be a larger tract of land, but that does create a little bit of a unique situation and sort of a reason why the county might desire to allow for it to be rezoned. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. I don't believe that anybody even spoke in regards to this one at the Planning Commission.
Any questions on this matter? Positive motion would say, I make a motion to approve rezoning application 2208-1987. All right, Matthias?
Yes.
Okay. To rezone approximately 52.03 acres from an A1 agriculture district to an A2 transitional agriculture district, and to amend the official county zoning map accordingly.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay,
Okay. This request is by the Barclays to rezone approximately 5.7 acres from the RE Residential Estate District to the A1 Agriculture District, and to rezone approximately 0.3 acres from the A1 Agriculture District to the R3A Single Family Residential 3-acre District. The applicants currently reside on, this entire property is a 3-lot subdivision. So one of the lots is approximately 3 acres in size. The second lot is 5.7 acres in size. And then the remainder tract, I think, is 70 acres, if I remember right, something around there. They currently live in the house on the 3-acre parcel. Their plans are to build a new house on sort of the remainder of the tract, but as part of that, they desire to sell the existing house, and the driveway for the existing house actually comes across the other property And so that's part of the reason why they're requesting to rezone 0.3 acres to allow for a boundary line adjustment between the two properties so that the driveway will be located on the property where the house is. So that makes sense. And then the other two tracts will end up being merged together into one single tract that will be rezoned into the agriculture district. And that's partly the frontage requirements in order to gain that additional land for the other tract needed to have those two merged together. And then in talking with the applicants, their main desire was to really keep it as one parcel anyways, to be able to have their house on it. And then there will probably be some general agricultural use still occurring on the property as well. Again, I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions on this one?
Just one comment. I appreciate your being flexible or to come up with solutions,
Yes.
to make these happen. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Okay, if positive motion B, I make a motion to approve rezoning application 2209-1989 Barklow to rezone approximately 5.7 acres from an RE residential estate district to an A1 agriculture district and rezone approximately 0.3 acres from an A1 agriculture district to an R3A single-family residential 3-acre district and to amend the Fisher County zoning map accordingly.
Motion to approve. Second.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay, keep going, Ken.
Okay. The next request is actually associated with this rezoning application. As I mentioned, that property was part of a 3-lot subdivision. And so in order to adjust the boundary lines, it requires a replat of that subdivision. And that's sort of what is being brought to you with this. Again, the small tract of the subdivision will just have basically a little adjustment in the boundary line to move it a little bit farther south so that the driveway will be located on that. As part of the replatting, it will also vacate the easements that were along the old property line and sort of move those easements down to the new property line. And then, again, the other 2 lots will basically be merged together, and the easements that were located between those 2 lots will be vacated as part of the replat.
Okay, any questions about this? Okay, and affirmative motion B, I make a motion to accept the dedication right of way and easements and authorize the chairman to endorse the final plat of BAAS Estates in the south half of the northeast quarter of the section 21, township 17 south, range 18 east.
So move. Second.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes.
Okay, the next request is an application by Erlacher in regards to rezoning approximately 10.01 acres from the A1 Agriculture District to the RE Residential Estate District. This property is located at the intersection of Reno Road and Kansas 33 Highway, south of Wellsville, a little ways. I would note that this area is actually shown being within the building corridor along I-35. So that was one item that was brought up for discussion. And then the other item, when I first talked with this individual, I expressed my main concern was whether he'd be able to get access from KDOT with how they're proposing to split this property off, as the only access will be off of K-33. He actually was able to work with KDOT, and KDOT did grant, they haven't granted access, but they issued a letter saying that they would, and then they just need to make sure all of the entrance and everything will comply with their regulations. So those are probably the 2 main items that were discussed here. I believe this individual is a family member to the person that owns the 80 that's being, the 10 acres being split off, and just trying to move out closer to where family is. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions about this one? Pause the motion as I make a motion to approve rezoning application 2209-1991 Ehrlicher to rezone approximately 10.01 acres from an A1 agricultural district to an RE residential estate district.
Motion approved.
Second?
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yeah.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes.
Okay. The next request is by Rayson, which is a rezoning application that involves 3 different properties and basically boundary line adjustments between these properties. First, the applicants are the main owners of a large tract that makes up most of this quarter section, and family members used to own all of the other residential properties adjacent to this, and over time those have transferred into other individuals' hands. And the main farmhouse, which is right at the corner, is where they reside. The property to the south of it was owned by family members and is now under contract to be sold to a different individual. Part of the request is they are moving the north property line of that adjacent tract 2 acres sort of south, in order to allow them to have better access to some of the other portions of their property due to where a little stream comes through the property. The other part of this request is the individual that owns the house at the southwest corner of this section desires to have some additional land for pasture, and so they are doing a boundary line adjustment with them to adjust the boundary of that property. So the request will rezone 2 acres on one tract from the RE Residential Estate District to the A1 District to allow that portion of the property to be added into the larger agricultural tract. And then the other part would be to rezone 15 acres from the A1 District to the A2 district, and then another tract that is approximately 15 acres in size, which is the other current house site, from the RE Residential Estate District to the A2 district. So overall, the rezonings here will primarily be more rezonings back to agricultural use. And I would note that the applicant is actually present if you did have any questions for her, but.
Have any questions about that? Explained it pretty well. Does that sound good with the applicants? Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, pause the motion. May I make a motion to approve rezoning application 2209-1995, Rayson, to rezone approximately 2 acres from an RE residential estate district or an A1 agriculture district and rezone approximately 15 acres from an RE residential estate district to the A2 transitional agriculture district, and to rezone approximately 14.71 acres from the A1 agriculture district to an A2 transitional agriculture district, and to amend the Fisher County zoning map accordingly.
So move. Second.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay, go on.
The final item that I have is actually has 2 parts to it. So this request is brought by Mr. Kleitz to rezone approximately 20 acres from the RE Residential Estate District to the A2 Transitional Agricultural District. And then if that rezoning is approved, he has also made an application for a special use permit to allow for the operation of a micro distillery in the A2 Transitional Agricultural District. So Mr. Kleitz, excuse me, was the individual that operated the Buckeye Distillery out at Tennessee Road. That operation has closed down at that facility, and what his desire is to transfer the distillery portion of that operation to his property where he resides. Currently, that property is made up of two separate 10-acre tracts and are both zoned RE, residential estate. The residential estate district does not provide for the opportunity for a micro distillery is on that property, even through the special use permit process. But because he owns two 10-acre tracts that are adjacent to each other, he is requesting to rezone the property to the A2 district. The A2 district does allow for a micro distillery to be considered as a special use permit, and then allows for the county to consider conditions that might be appropriate in regards to that type of operation if it is approved there. This item, we did have a number of adjacent property owners at the public hearing and ask some questions. Most of them, I think, were relatively minor, wanting to make sure that doing the micro distillery here wasn't going to cause problems with water service to adjacent property owners. Staff had already contacted the rural water district, and the water usage of a distillery is apparently extremely small. And so they did not anticipate that there would be any impact to neighbors in regards to the water usage. The other question from one of the neighbors was in regards to the effect of taxes on approving this type of a business here. I think the concern is that, you know, it is a little bit more of a commercial industrial operation, and if that would have an impact on increasing taxes because of that activity going on. Staff is my understanding is that there's no documentation that would show that there would be any increase in values of properties adjacent to this with the rezoning of the property or the granting of the special use permit. The final item that was noted by one of the neighbors appeared to be more of a concern in regards to probably more character question of the applicant and just more, I think, a neighborhood dispute issue in regards to noise and those types of things as part of the residential activities that were occurring on the property. While the Planning Commission did have some discussion on that item, I think at the end it was determined that sort of the activities that were going on and were of question did not really relate to the proposed use of the distillery, and I don't believe that there was a desire to regulate something that would be permitted on any other property by right in the county, as the county doesn't currently have noise ordinances for just regular residential uses in the county. Part of, I guess, what staff did propose to the Planning Commission, and I did not, I missed including this in my staff report. As part of this request, will require the applicant to merge the two parcels into one tract. What I did mention to the Planning Commission was my recommendation of the rezoning and the special use permit resolutions being withheld from publication until the applicant does actually do the merger of the property together. He did not want to go through the process of hiring a surveyor and paying those fees without knowing that it was going to be a possibility of actually getting the rezoning done. But I think in order to get the rezoning done appropriately, right now, if we did publish those resolutions, we would have 2 10-acre tracts that would be rezoned to the A2 district, and so would be less than the normal minimum parcel size. So withholding that until we get the merger would sort of allow him to understand that the approval has happened, and then we just need to get the new legal description filed, and then we can get everything published. If you would like me to, I would be more than happy to go through the conditions that were recommended by the Planning Commission. I would note that there were some minor changes from what staff had originally proposed as part of the applicant's presentation or application. He had noted his intent of being the only really employee of the business, which as part of that, staff recommended that the employment be restricted to those that reside on the property. When we got to the public hearing, he did express at times that he might need some part-time help. And so the Planning Commission did modify that condition to allow him to have some actually full-time or part-time help on the property. We also had listed restrictions on hours of operation of the business in general. His main concern was that a distillery operation is sort of a 24/7 type of thing. When it's going, it's going. And so we clarified that a little bit by saying that hours of outside operation and deliveries shall be limited to between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. So it's a little bit more clear that the actual use can go on in the buildings. The concern was with the impacts on neighbors, and so I think that has been addressed now as well. And then the other item that was brought up for discussion was the main use of the distillery is happening inside of an existing accessory structure. The applicant has noted that he has a number of cargo containers that he uses for storage of some of the material and stuff associated with the business that are sort of in the area of that accessory structure. And he would like to be able to use those and not necessarily just be restricted to within the building itself. And so the Planning Commission did modify that condition as well to allow for a maximum of 6 cargo containers on the property, sort of associated with the special use permit. So again, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have or discuss any of those additional conditions that are in the resolution.
So just to clarify, he's just going to make the product on the property.
Yes.
And then if a truck comes in to pick it up between the hours of 7 and 7, that.
Yeah. Yeah, and there were a number of questions of whether he's going to, be selling to anybody from the property. No, he cannot sell to anybody from the property. He has to sell to a distributor who then takes it other places. There are, we have a number of conditions, but our conditions, I'm sure, pale in comparison to state and federal requirements in regards to the manufacturing and selling of liquor. So,
yeah, I did note that in your report, and I thought that was good. That no matter what we say he can do, the state has a whole lot of additional regulations.
Yes, yeah, and so if his license expires to be a micro distillery or those types of things, that he can't really operate here with the special use permit either. So.
When you use cargo containers in a commercial operation like that, how does that affect the property taxes?
I have not seen anything in regards to whether the use of cargo containers has a substantial impact on property taxes. In general, my understanding, I'm sure from a perspective, if somebody had a whole lot of stuff on there or just general junk on a property, I mean, that's gonna affect,
Negatively.
yeah, an adjacent property owner. But as I did talk with this applicant, one thing that he noted, and I would agree with, Franklin County at this point in time has not really adopted any specific regulations in regards to the use of cargo containers. And so we have a lot of people around the county that have purchased cargo containers and are using those as sort of storage facilities on their properties. And there are a number of neighboring properties that already have those on there. So I don't believe that this probably provides any more restriction. I think from staff perspective, having it limited to a maximum of 6, I think is, I would say, gracious, but it also sort of puts a higher end on it so that it doesn't end up being just 5 acres of cargo containers, so.
Don't let my husband know that we can do those.
Yeah, I didn't know, because, what was it, 10 cargo containers he's gonna use for this operation? Or 6?
Yeah. And I think he said that he only really has 2 right now that are associated with the use. He mentioned that he might also want, a couple for personal use. And then I think the planning commission, when they set the limit, sort of went beyond, I think, what he requested in setting it at 6, so.
Yeah, I didn't know whether cargo container met the safety requirements or in doing this operation.
No, they're not generally considered buildings, so they don't normally fall under the building code. Now, if somebody starts modifying them and connecting them together and attaching them to a foundation, then they can be used as a building material. But is there not a sort of a standard, it's not like a 2x4. There is no standard design guidelines for how you use cargo containers to build a structure. And so anything like that would require a stamped engineered drawings to sort of verify that it meets structural requirements, so.
So right now, they're 2 separate 10 acres?
Yeah, 2 separate 10-acre tracts. It's a little weird. The back tract actually just has I want to say a 30-foot wide frontage onto the county road, where the driveway is generally located. It actually sort of crosses the other parcel. And so this would merge the 2 10-acre tracts together to make one 20-acre tract.
So we're gonna do the rezoning as a separate item?
Yes, yeah, this would be two different items. First, the request to rezone the property, and then following that, if the rezoning is approved, then consideration of the special use permit.
Okay, any more questions about this? Is he gonna sell commercially out of this?
No, he just said he can't.
Yeah,
Well, just,
I mean, people
Did you
come
distribute-
there and buy products?
no, nobody can go there. What he expressed was, he will, of course, be on the property, and if he has staff that he hires, they'll be on the property. The only other individuals that would sort of be able to come to the property to be involved in the distillery operation at all would be the distributor that would be coming to pick up the product that they purchase. But that will then be taken to either, a bar or a liquor store to be sold to the public. There will be no retail sales of items here. I guess I do note in my staff report, this is based off of the state statutes on what sort of a micro distillery is. So there are limitations on the quantity of alcohol that he can produce. So it's not going to be an extremely large amount. The discussion at the meeting included that pretty much all of the vehicles that are going to be coming to the site and delivering product or picking up product will be probably more like a pickup truck or an Amazon van type truck. This will not be, semi trucks making deliveries or anything like that. So a little bit less than what I think some people would think is happening. So.
Okay, any other questions about
I have
that?
one more comment, and it really isn't about this, it's just about when he had to close this business at Tennessee Road. It was my understanding that a part of the reason that had to close was because of the 30% food rule that we've had some issues with in the county. So again, that's another reason to maybe revisit that whole requirement.
Yep.
Other questions?
Yeah, I just think, I read the whole thing word for word on this one especially, because it is my district. And it looks like Kenny did a good job of trying to answer all the questions. And the main thing we had, I think, was the division of the property and what's been done. As far as the business goes, I think the owner now has already done it twice before and was successful, so he already knows all the do's and don'ts even before he applied as far as running his operation. So it ain't like we're turning it over to somebody that's never done it before and just a venture. It's actually, we know he's made a living at it for several years. That's all I got.
Okay, specific action, make a motion to approve the rezoning application 2209-1997 Glitz to rezone approximately 20 acres from an RE residential estate district to an A2 transitional agriculture district.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sotomayor,
They call abstain.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay, second part of this, I make a motion to approve the special use permit application 2209-1998 Glitz to allow for the operation of a micro distillery in an A2 transitional agriculture district. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Harris,
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sotomayor,
Yeah.
Chair Dunn.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Any? Okay, this is a consider approval hiring Jeff Heineman of Stevens and Brand LLP to conduct the county's next tax sale. Derek?
Yeah, the cover sheet on this speaks for itself. We've used Stevens and Brand dating back to 2017. Jeff and Jody Edwards, our treasurer, have good rapport. Obviously, I have good rapport with Jeff. Has worked with Croucher several times on the title work on all of this. Just does a real nice job. What I have here is a very standard engagement letter, but it kind of represents the formal action that the board would need to take to go ahead and get this started. We've talked about this before, but the fees from the sale of the property or the revenue generated can be used to pay these fees. And frankly, the county can't keep that money anyway. So it's not like we would be banking that money if we didn't utilize Mr. Hyman's services. So I don't see a downside in doing that. It's worked incredibly well over the last several sales. So if you have any questions about this, would be happy to answer them.
Is the fee based on a sale, or is the fees based on how many properties are included in the sale?
It's an hour, he has an hourly rate that he charges.
When would this take place approximately?
So the first step in a tax sale would be, I always ask that we send out demand letters. So we'll send out demand letters giving property owners, I mean, obviously, they should be getting their tax statements. It won't catch them by surprise. But what we found is that getting demand letters from an outside law firm actually inspires a lot of people to come in and pay their taxes. So we've learned that that's a great step. So we'll do that. Typically, we give 30 days. And then from there, we'll have a petition ready to go. And at that point, it's in the district court's hands. So timelines on tax sales are so hard because it's predicated on what else is in front of the court.
Okay, any other questions about this? Okay. Possible motion be considered for approval of hiring Jeff Heineman of Stevens and Brand LLP to conduct the county's next tax sale.
Motion approved.
Second?
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Sotomayor?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes. Okay, ready for staff report. Derek, you want to lead us off here?
Yeah, thanks, Roy. I don't have a ton today. I do just want to, and I'm sure she'll speak about it more, but commend and congratulate Janet on a well-run election. I will tell you there are very few things that happen in this county that I don't have some involvement with, but elections I have no involvement with, and she does a great job. It's interesting in that I think so many people just show up and vote and don't give it a lot of thought. I mean, they'll give their preferences thought, but in terms of the procedure and the process that goes into that, just thinking about the logistics, all the different voting sites, having to get the volunteers there, being able to be there for them when inevitable questions arise. A lot goes into that, and certainly think we have it good here in Franklin County, and just want to commend her on that. And that's really all I have at this time, Roy. Thanks.
Okay. Well, Paul, you've been patient.
I think he fell asleep a couple times.
Good morning, Commissioners. I want to, first of all, echo Derek's comments as a volunteer for the campaign, or for Election Day, I should say. I get to kind of see firsthand the work that Jan and her team do, and it's just exceptional. And, you know, you hear a lot of noise about the credibility of elections, and I can tell you with absolute certainty our elections are secure. The way Janet and her team run those things and the instruction, they give great instruction to the volunteers and to the captains at each of the sites. And so I want to echo Derek, my deep appreciation to Janet and her team. It's amazing. And yeah, the amount of work they do behind the scenes getting that ready is just awesome. So thank you, Janet, to you and your team. I'm excited. Tomorrow's a big day for us. We have our Franklin County Career Day, and that'll be at the Ottawa High School. We'll have about 340 juniors from all the school districts in Franklin County attending. We've got about 60 tables that'll be set up in the gym for business and industry to represent themselves to our students. All the students will have T-shirts. It's thanks to a gift from the American Eagle Foundation. And all the folks that are volunteering and setting up their tables and helping us, BCI Mechanical has donated money so I can bring donuts and coffee at 7:30 in the morning for them to be energized a little bit. But it's just it's one of those great days on my calendar. I really look forward to it. And also want to lift up all the school districts, the superintendents and their staffs, and the high school principals, counselors. It's a lot of work by them, but they just do an exceptional job throughout the county, and we're very fortunate to have such great leadership, and really appreciate Ottawa High School for hosting it and all that they do on that. So very excited about tomorrow. That'll be a great day for our youth and for our businesses. Things have slowed down on business recruitment. I think it's a lot to do with the economy and the midterms. Now that the midterms are over, I'm hopeful that we'll start to see a little bit of activity as we finish up the calendar year. Normally, you see a little bit of a bump in inquiries the last 60 days of the year. So I'm hoping with the election out of the way, we can kind of start looking forward now and see that activity. Other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
You had your annual meeting, it would have been last Wednesday, so we haven't had a meeting since. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Derek. We had our annual meeting last week, and we did a little different this year. We did it as a luncheon down at the high school, and people could come, and Kansas State Bank paid for our food from Prairie Star, which was really good. And then had a brief meeting, and then folks got to get a tour of the VOTEC facilities there at Ottawa High School. We had over 60 people attend the lunch, and I think 45 to 50 of them stayed for the tour. And so that was a great way for our business and industry to see firsthand our VOTEC programs and the facilities and how strong those are. In addition to that, we gave them all contact information to those particular teachers. And so trying to, again, build those connections between the industries and our education partners so that they can have direct pipelines for students. We did have a group of kids already go out to Select Steel and Chef Steel for a tour, and so want to continue to have those smaller group, once we identify kids out of the career day, what their special interests are and their areas of interest, then we'll have smaller groups that will try to get out to the particular business or industry. So, but yeah, that was a great meeting. It's great to have 60-some people there. A lot of positive energy and just a great moment to celebrate our organization, but more importantly, all the things that are happening in the community. So appreciate your support for that, and I think it's something we'll probably do again next year.
Say, I've been to several of those over the years, and I've never been to one that was that well attended. And I think that's a testament to the support that Paul has built and continues to build with FCDC. So kudos on that, Paul.
Any other questions?
Thanks for that report.
Thank you very much.
Ambulance service, ambulance? EMS? Nothing? Okay. Sheriff?
Morning. I just wanted to let you know, recently we did have someone graduate from the part-time, the part-time academy and down in Hutch. And then Friday we have another deputy that will be graduating from the academy. So we're getting the ball rolling on that. We do still have vacancies, but I look at agencies around us, especially some of the larger agencies up north of us. Percentage-wise, we're not as bad as many of them. They have more vacancies than we have total authorized spots, but percentage-wise, we're still we are better off than what those agencies are. So I guess that's the encouragement that I have through that. Hopefully we can get more people jumping into the workforce, but that's kind of where we are at this point. And then we have confirmed that we do get to pick up our transport van from our conference next week. So it is completed, and they're looking forward to starting to drive that instead of what we're currently driving. So that's all I have, unless you guys have questions for me.
Questions, Jeff?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Dustin, do you have something? David?
So on Monday, we will begin our training and implementation process for the new PubWorks software. We'll have training Monday through Thursday. We'll cycle all of the Road and Bridge folks will participate. Many of them will participate in multiple segments of that training. So really next week is a start to something that is really going to change how the Road and Bridge, really the whole Public Works Department operates, and really excited about that. The implementation process is going to be long and difficult, and so we're aware of that. I think our folks are prepared and ready to go. So so we'll be getting started on Monday morning, bright and early. The other thing I wanted to mention, some time ago we discussed the Lake Region Solid Waste Authority Board. I'm certain that we discussed that that we did a little bit of reorganization, and I was selected amongst the group to be the board chair of that, and along with Don sitting on that board. However, I think we neglected to formally approve from the commission standpoint me sitting in that, being a voting member of that. I have always been an alternate with our solid waste superintendent being the voting member, but due to circumstances and whatnot, we switched roles, but we need to officially make that happen. And so I would ask for you all to approve that, having myself as a voting member of the Lake Region Solid Waste Authority Board. You have any?
The main thing we need to do is that, I know I was already approved a reorganization, but just to keep our records straight over there, what we've done, if you guys see fit, just go ahead and reappoint me again if you like. So it's in the minutes, along with David. He's just switching with Pat because of his position now as the chairman of that. We don't want him to be the alternate. We want him to be but Pat would still be our alternate, so.
And if you do desire to move that direction, if you would, in your motion, make it for the 2022 year. That way, it covers us.
David, do you want to try and state a succinct motion?
And let's see, how would we word that?
It doesn't have to
I
be.
should have come prepared for that. I apologize.
I was saying that Dawn and David would be that would be the alternate for the 21 and 22.
Or 22 and 23.
Janet, why don't you just state that for the record?
Okay, that Don Stottlemyre and David Lee be the voting members for the Lake Region Solid Waste Authority, and Pat Campbell be the alternate voting member for the 22 and 23 years.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Stottlemyre?
Abstain.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Dickinson?
Yes.
Chair Dunn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anything else, David? Okay. Janet, will you give us a little rundown on elections and everything?
For starters, I would like to address something that was discussed in public comment. First of all, the vouchers are at my office. The commissioners can look at them at any time that they desire. Those are also open records, so if anyone has a question about a specific voucher or something that's been paid for, someone can file an open records request to see that voucher. No problem there. Also, Commissioner Dunn comes down every 2 weeks and goes through all the vouchers and signs them. So I just want to make that clear. So the chairman is always responsible for that. Ian has on occasion come in and filled in for Roy when he's been gone. But Roy is very prompt at getting down there and looking at those vouchers, making sure that everything's squared away. So that is the situation with vouchers. Another thing that was raised during public comment was the elevator in the courthouse. There is an elevator in the courthouse. It starts at the basement level, which is our access point for our handicapped accessible entrance. So anyone who needs to access any of the upper floors of the building can park in one of the 4 handicap spaces that we have on the back of the property. There's 2 in the small parking lot and 2 out on the street. There is a ramp right there in that parking lot that brings you into the building. A smooth handicapped accessible entrance with the remote door. And then the elevator is at the west side of the building. So you make your way to the west side of the building and then you can access any of the floors. So there is elevator access for our handicapped folks that need to come into the building. As far as early voting, we had 2 weeks of early voting. As you guys know, I talked about that each of the weeks leading up to the election. We had 3 late nights and we had 2 Saturdays, and we voted a total of 1,853 people in my office, which is a lot. I did receive one complaint about the volume in the office. It is a working office, and I do bring an additional staff member in during early voting to make sure that we can accommodate all of these people. We have in the past, prior to my coming on board, had early voting in the basement, and with the motor vehicle department being in the basement, that's just not a workable option. And so I have drastically limited the amount of space my employees have in our office and moved the counter back substantially. So if you haven't been in my office, you maybe have a week or 2 left to come in and see what that looks like, because we will move that back after we get done with the elections. But we drastically limit our working space so that we can have more space for the voters. We set up 2 voting booths that can accommodate 7 people and have handicap spaces for those handicapped people to come in and vote. And we do set up 4 touchscreen voting machines so that people can vote if they have accessibility issues also. So I try everything I can to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to vote, that the building is accessible, that my office is accessible. And we did at one point have to vote some people out in the hallway because we had too many people waiting to vote, and we were trying to get them through in an expedited fashion. So that's a lot about early voting, but I wanted to make sure that you guys know that, so that if you guys have any questions, we do try to keep it down in the office, but with so many people in there, I mean, at times we had 10 or 11 people voting in there, not to mention the other people that were in there waiting to vote and the employees that are in there, and we still try to be extremely friendly. We're a friendly community, and we try to be friendly with everyone that's coming in. So anyway, that's early voting. I just want to say that I cannot do this without the amazing staff that I have. I have 3 full-time girls that are amazing, and they move their jobs around tremendously during election time to be sure to accommodate all of the things that have to be done. And then I have Sarah Geist that comes in part-time during election, and she bends over backwards also to give us hours that are difficult for her to give, but she does an amazing job. And she also filled in at my Wellsville location, which has over 2,200 registered voters out at Wellsville, and it's a big location to run, and she stepped in there and did it great yesterday. One last thing, I could not do this without other department heads in the county. David came in a pinch yesterday and replaced the battery in the gray van, so we had transportation to go around to different polling locations. Dustin helped me on Monday and Tuesday getting my projector all set up and connected so that we could project the results. Joanna made me an amazing document so that I could post the results in my office, and they were very clear. And Jeff Richards worked with me extensively in regards to the parade, because the parade presented some legal challenges for us for having a voting location open on Main Street with a parade and candidates going by. So I just want to say thank you to everyone in the county that helped, and Pat Campbell and his crews from recycling are all out today picking up all the election equipment, and they helped us all day Monday delivering all the equipment. So we definitely could not do this without the help of all these other departments. So if you have any questions about the election results, I'd be happy to answer them. We do have the full election results on our website, and also with the summary of election results that I had presented in my office last night. So the canvas is set for the 16th, which is next Wednesday, which is the date you guys approved. We'll be holding that right after your meeting. We'll have your regular meeting down here as usual. And then when your meeting adjourns down here, we'll all make our way down to the courthouse and convene the canvas up on the second floor in the courtroom.
How was the turnout compared to the primary?
I haven't really had a chance to look at that yet. We did look at a couple of locations last night, just as time allowed, and they did not have the turnout that we had in the primary. One specifically, we looked at Westminster Presbyterian Church, which is the 8th precinct, and which is notoriously one of the bigger ones here in town, and they did not have the same number of voters. But I don't know if that was impacted by the increased number of early voters that we had come in the office. So I really haven't had a chance to really analyze those numbers yet.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah.
Don, do you have anything?
Yeah, I mainly asked that because I want to make sure the more public knows, the more they know. So, yeah, I did attend a meeting the other day that Paul and Derek mentioned. Thought it was very well attended, and the process, and kind of want to make the notion that we do have a new board pretty well, and Casey Lytle from Wellfield is our new chairman on that board, and Kyle Laswell is also a board member now on that board. So I think they're moving. They got some good people in there. They had good people, and they're returning more good people. So I think, and they're like one of the things they brought up. What did he say? If they was up to 70 members now, or 90? No, I'm sorry, 90 members now. And Paul's projected he wanted to get to 100 someday, and he's already up to 90 now. So that's a good process. Headed that direction too. We all got a letter. I thought it was the first time we really got official from the tourism department updating us on tourism and their numbers, and sounds to me like they're quite a bit better than they used to be. I know you always got to remember September is always a good month because of the car show and the tractor show, but it looked like they had good numbers, pretty good numbers on either side of it, a lot better than what we have been having. So I've always been kind of disappointed the state didn't do a little better job promoting getting off the highway there to it. I think a lot more people would use that if they did. So that's been like, I don't, next week, I was going to mention next week in case I forget, we're having another one of our 6 county economic development meetings. We're going to have in those 6 counties next week. So, and that turned out really good to kind of pass information around between all 6 counties of what sounds like there's some big things going on. I don't think necessarily we'd catch all the details if we didn't meet with all those people and get the information straight from the horse's mouth, I guess, is the best thing to word it. That's all I got.
Okay, right. Yeah?
I only have a couple of things. I did attend the FCDC luncheon. I think that's been covered. I went to the Princeton board meeting on Monday night, and they are still moving forward with they're still working on the engineering study for the drainage system in the city, and then and Paul was also there where they're still they're trying to figure out how they're going to be able to pay for it. So there's different options out there. It's just a matter of finding out what they are and applying for them. So hopefully they can get some help paying for that, because that's way more than their yearly budget, probably like 10 times or 20 times our yearly budget. So something that they're going to have to figure out. And then just proud of the whole nation as far as voting yesterday. There are a lot of close races. People really got out to vote. And if you don't think it's important to vote, all you have to do is look at the numbers, and a lot of these could swing either way. And so it is important to vote. Glad to see a lot of people out voting. And that's all I have.
Okay, all I have is this Friday's a holiday, Veterans Day, and glad that the county recognized veterans and their contribution to this country. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.